She was beautiful, beloved, and broken. She lit up every room, but died in the dark. The world said it was an accident, but some accidents are set in motion. The palace watched, the press chased, and somewhere in between, Diana vanished. This is not just a story, it's a question. Who killed Diana? And why do we still not know the answer?
Chapter 1: A legacy older than the Windsors. Before there were castles, crowns, and cameras, there was cloth. The Spencer family began not as kings, but as merchants, wealthy wool traders in 15th century England. But wealth opened doors, and the Spencers, sharp and ambitious, stepped through them. By the time of the Tudors, they were no longer tradesmen. They were landowners, lords, and courtiers, serving monarchs, hosting nobles, making history quietly but with purpose. Their rise was not sudden, but it was steady, and it would place them within arm's reach of the throne. Few remember this. Diana was not just a commoner who married a prince. She was already aristocracy. Through an illegitimate line, she was descended from King Charles II himself. That meant that, in a twist of royal irony, her bloodline was, on paper, older than that of the man she would marry. But no title shielded her from fate, and no bloodline guaranteed happiness. In the heart of Northamptonshire stood Althorpe, a house of quiet halls and heavy portraits. It was the Spencer family seat for generations. To the world, it symbolized prestige. To Diana, it was both cradle and cage. She played in its gardens, but wandered its corridors alone. She dined beneath chandeliers, but longed for warmth that no marble floor could offer. Althorpe shaped her. It whispered of tradition, duty, and silence. Diana's world fractured when she was just a girl. Her parents' marriage crumbled, her mother left, her father became distant, swallowed by grief and protocol. There were nannies, yes, and uniforms and ponies and castles. But there were also questions that no child should have to ask. Why did she leave? Was it my fault? Is anyone coming back? Diana learned to smile early. It became her armor, and later, her prison. She was born into privilege, but without a title of her own. She wasn't a princess, she wasn't a duchess, she was a Spencer, and that meant history was behind her. But destiny was uncertain. She read about queens and saints in school, but she also knew what it felt like to cry behind closed doors. Diana was not just waiting for a fairy tale. She was hoping someone would see her, really see her. She didn't want a crown. She wanted connection, but history had other plans. Chapter 2: The Fairy Tale Begins. She was just 19, shy, soft-spoken, and suddenly the most photographed woman in Britain. When the cameras found her, they didn't just capture a girl, they created an icon. Tabloids watched her every move. Paparazzi followed her every glance. The world began to fall in love with her before Charles ever did. But fame comes with a price, and the spotlight never blinks. In 1981, the engagement was announced. The heir to the British throne would marry a sweet, aristocratic nursery teacher. But behind the smiles were shadows. He was still in love with someone else. She was still trying to understand who she was. When a reporter asked, "Are you in love?" Charles answered,
Whatever in love means.
and something inside Diana paused. July 29th, 1981. Over 750 million people watched. Diana in a silk gown, a 25-foot train, a glass carriage, and a crown of expectation. It looked like a dream. But her eyes told a different story. In the pews sat her future, her duty, her isolation. And as the bells rang through London, the myth was born. That sentence echoed for years. Whatever in love means. It wasn't just a slip, it was a signal, a prophecy in plain sight. Even on her wedding day, Diana felt unsure, not of herself, but of the man beside her. He looked at the cameras, she looked for comfort. The fairy tale dress, the crown, the cheers. But behind it all was doubt. She had become a princess, but not yet a wife. She had joined the firm, but not found a family. The world saw a royal romance. Diana saw a palace of mirrors, and in one of them, she barely recognized herself. Chapter 3: A Prison in the Palace. The palace was grand, but it was cold. Diana entered a world of titles and rituals, but found no warmth behind the golden walls. No one hugged, no one asked, no one listened. She waved to crowds and came home to silence. She tried to love, to understand, but Camilla was never gone. Not from Charles's heart, not from their marriage. Diana knew the phone calls, the glances, the absences. It was a bit crowded, she would later say. 3 of us in this marriage. Behind the grace was grief. Diana struggled with bulimia, with loneliness, with herself. She hurt in private. She cried in secret, and she screamed quietly into the void of royal life. The tiara didn't make her whole. The palace didn't make her safe. And then came William, then Harry. In her children, Diana found light. She held them tightly, broke tradition, kissed them in public, took them to theme parks. She didn't want princes. She wanted boys with hearts, with laughter, with freedom. She gave them what she never had: unfiltered, undeniable love. The world kept watching, and Diana kept smiling At hospitals, at galas, at funerals. The smile became her shield, but behind it was a storm. She was living two lives, one for the cameras, one for the mirror, and both were slowly breaking. Chapter 4: The Queen of Hearts. She was no longer just a princess in pearls. She was becoming herself. On her first solo tour, she lit up Australia. Crowds wept. Children ran to her. The cameras followed, but now on her terms. She wasn't walking behind Charles anymore. She was walking into the world, alone and radiant. Diana went where others would not. She held the hand of a man dying of AIDS. She walked through active minefields in Angola. No press script, no palace permission, just empathy. She saw what others ignored and gave dignity to those the world had forgotten. She didn't do it for attention. She did it because it mattered. But her light threatened shadows. The royal family didn't know what to do with her anymore. Was she an asset or a danger? The press turned brutal. Stories, lies, surveillance. Diana had become more than a royal. She was now a brand, a force, a symbol. And symbols are hard to control. In 1996, it ended. The marriage, the fairy tale, the illusion. Diana lost her title, but found her voice. She was no longer Her Royal Highness, but she was still mother, woman, fighter. The crown stayed in the palace, but the people stayed with her. It wasn't a title from the Queen. It was a name whispered by millions. The people's princess. Not because of protocol, but because she listened. Because she cared. Because she hurt and healed in public. She became the beating heart of a silent nation, and the world had never seen anything like her. Chapter 5: Death in Paris. It was summer. The cameras followed her across the Mediterranean. On yachts, in airports, at villas, and always by her side was Dodi Al-Fayed. Was it love, or was it an escape? After years of betrayal, silence, and scrutiny, Diana wanted warmth, spontaneity. A man who chased her, not headlines. But with Dodi came something else. Security, chaos, surveillance, and the lens never looked away. But Diana was a commodity. A photograph of her sold for thousands. In Paris, they couldn't breathe. Cameras flashed through windshields. Motorbikes followed every turn. The Ritz Hotel became a fortress. She was hunted by people with cameras instead of knives. And she knew one wrong move and they'd devour her. It was just after midnight. A black Mercedes, a decoy plan, and too much speed. Henri Paul drove them away from the paparazzi into the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Moments later, silence. Screeching metal, shattered glass, and then nothing. Diana was still alive, barely, but the impact had done its work. The world didn't know yet, but history had just changed. The news broke before sunrise. Princess Diana, dead at 36. The world gasped, and then it wept. Candles were lit. Teddy bears were left at gates. Millions mourned someone they never met. And Buckingham Palace, it said nothing. The Queen remained silent, and silence became scandal. Why no flag? Why no words? For once, the people didn't follow the monarchy. They demanded the monarchy follow them. It was not just a funeral, it was a reckoning. More than 2 billion people watched. 2 boys walked behind the coffin, William and Harry, grieving, rigid, shattered. Diana's brother spoke and shook the pillars of the palace. Elton John sang, and the world cried. It wasn't a state funeral. It was something stranger, deeper. The funeral of a woman who had become everyone's. And in the end, it wasn't silence that defined her. It was the sound of millions saying goodbye. Chapter 6: The Legend Lives. She was buried, but she was never gone. Murals appeared. Candles burned for weeks. Girls were named after her in dozens of languages. Diana became more than memory. She became myth, not through fairy tales, but through the ache she left behind. She walked in pearls and shoulder pads, and suddenly the world followed. She turned pain into presence, sorrow into style. Pop songs remembered her. Designers invoked her. Magazines never stopped printing her name. Diana lived on in every tribute, not because she asked for them, but because people couldn't let go. She left behind 2 sons, and the world watched them grow. William, the future king, duty-bound, careful. Harry, the rebel, raw, searching. Both carried her image. Both carried her absence. They loved her, but grieved her differently. And in the divide between them, the world saw Diana's shadow. The monarchy moved forward. But Diana never truly left. Her face appeared in interviews. Her name echoed in critiques. Her story was retold, refilmed, refought. She became a question the crown couldn't quite answer, and every time the firm stumbled, people asked, what would Diana have done? She was gone long before her time, but maybe she was always meant to live beyond it, because Diana was never just about royalty. She was about humanity. She wasn't a queen. She didn't need to be. She became something rarer, a reminder of kindness, of courage, of imperfection, of love. Princess Diana, still remembered, still missed, still eternal. She was more than a story, more than a crown, more than a tragedy. Diana was a mirror, reflecting what the world hoped for and what it still grieved. Thank you for walking this journey with us, for remembering her not as an icon, but as a woman. If this story moved you, share it. If it made you feel seen, carry it. And if you wish to honor Diana's legacy, explore our limited edition Princess Diana, the People's Crown collection. Each design was created with care, carrying the spirit of what she stood for: compassion, strength, and truth beneath the surface. Link in the description. And if you believe these stories matter, join us, subscribe, and push the little bell icon so you don't miss our next adventures. Comment, speak her name, because history is not just what happened, it's what we choose to remember. And some names should never be forgotten. Thank you. From all of us at Timeless Tales, until next time.